Hi there, I'm Jonathan Singer. I'm the Vice Chair of the CAT Academic Bargaining Team. This is a brief and incomplete overview of Phase 3 of our Work to Rule, which is being initiated in March. And it includes everything that we've been doing in Phases 1 and 2 for our Work to Rule action thus far. And you can find all of those details about phases 1 and 2, and now the new details about phase 3 as well on the websites collegefaculty.org as well as facultystrong.ca. Well, recently we had a successful vote refusing a forced offer by the College Employer Council. And whereas you might expect the employer to come back with a new offer, return to the table, or refer all outstanding issues to binding interest arbitration, instead the College Employer Council continues to stonewall. So the purpose of phase 3 is for us to increase the pressure on the employer to achieve resolution, either by negotiating an agreement or by referring outstanding issues to binding arbitration, and hopefully doing this without a work stoppage or picketing. And similarly, some of the actions that are included in phase 3 are designed in order to reduce the likelihood of employer lockout. Now, these actions have been arrived at with input from OPSEU's legal team, local presidents, and the Bargaining Advisory Committee, including the 8 partial load members of that committee. So there's 3 main areas of actions that are covered by phase 3 of Work to Rule, and the first is mode of delivery, how we're delivering our classes. So the first is if you're assigned to teach HyFlex, do not do so. HyFlex being a multiple mode form of teaching where you're teaching students in a classroom and at the exact same time students are participating in that class online. None of us are given the preparation time that we need in order to do that kind of teaching appropriately and effectively. Please treat HyFlex assignments as hybrid. If you are asked to do them, you are able to determine whether you wish to teach them in classroom, online, or some breakdown of the two. So for example, if you have a 3-hour course, you might choose to teach it entirely in the classroom or entirely online, or perhaps, let's say, 2 hours in the classroom, 1 hour online, 1 hour in the classroom, 2 hours online, but that will be your choice. Now, if you're assigned to teach in the classroom, do so only if you believe that it's best for the course and for your students. If you don't think that returning to the classroom, let's say for the second half of the semester after starting up the course online, if you don't think that's best for the students, then do not do it. Treat it as struck work. Continue to teach online. And if you're assigned to teach online, determine whether it's best for the course and for your students to teach that class synchronously, which is to say in real time with you and students sharing the same virtual space at the same time, or to teach asynchronously. And lastly, recording classes is entirely your choice. But if you do choose to record classes, do not upload your recordings to the learning management system. Do not make them available to students through the learning management system. That's not where they should be stored. Instead, put them on a private YouTube channel or leave the files in Dropbox, and you can make them available to your students by sending links and passwords. And if you send links and passwords through college email, that's fine. But you should not leave recordings up on the college LMS long term. Secondly, around evaluation, during non-teaching weeks, like intersession, reading week, study week, or weeks when you're not being paid, if you're partial load faculty, do not do any grading during those weeks. You're simply not being SWIFT or paid to do that, so do not. And looking at the time that you are attributed to do your grading, either indicated by the SWIFT if you're full-time or by that principle of 1.17 hours for every teaching contact hour for the preparation and evaluation combined of your course if you're partial load, make the evaluation fit that time that you're being attributed. And that may mean that you need to simplify it dramatically. It may mean that you're going to grade work but not provide feedback because you're not being attributed time by the college in order to give students feedback. It might be that you're going to grade simply on a pass-fail basis for assignments or even final grades if in fact the regulatory bodies associated with your field permit that. But one way or another, you're being given time to evaluate, and according to phase 3 of our work to rule, you will be simplifying the evaluation to enable you to do the work within that time. The other major point about evaluation is to keep the grades off of the college learning management system, Blackboard, Brightspace, D2L. That's not where they should be stored long-term in order to reduce the likelihood of lockout. So it's fine if perhaps you are going to be relying on your learning management system in order to calculate grades of quizzes, for example, or to distribute grades to your students if they get emailed automatically. That's terrific. But long-term, they should be downloaded off of the learning management system and erased from it on your part, so that the college does not have access to all the grades in a lockout situation. But again, we will continue to grade our students, and we will continue to provide individual assignment grades to the students, whether it be upon request by email, or if you can set up your system to automatically email grades out to students, that's fine too. Lastly, final grades. Don't use the college's system for uploading final grades. Instead, maybe write them out, students and their letter grades, on a sheet of paper or print it out off your computer. Take a photograph of that sheet of paper and maybe email that photograph, or even just put that sheet of paper with the students' names and numbers and their final grades, put it in the mail, in the post box, and send it to your department. This is about us withholding parts of our work in order to demonstrate the importance of having a collective agreement that is negotiated or resolved through arbitration. And these are actions that we're taking in order to increase that kind of pressure on management. Lastly, the third kind of significant component of our work to rule actions in phase 3 concern non-teaching activities. During non-teaching weeks, again, intersession, reading week, do only activities that you initiate, not activities that are initiated by your supervisor. Activities initiated by your supervisor, whether they be events or orientations or, let's say filling out paperwork around approvals processes, that is struck work. That is not what you will be doing during non-teaching weeks. Do the activities that you initiate in the interest of your own professional development, professionalism, and the quality of the education that you provide to students. Don't do preparation for your upcoming classes or evaluation for the classes from the first half of the semester. You've been given time to do that on your SWIFT, for example, or under the terms of your contract if you're partial load. And if that time was not sufficient to do the work of preparation and evaluation, then you should not have to sacrifice your own professional development time in order to compensate for the college's insufficiencies and inadequacies in their workload assignments. If they fail to give you the time to do it, you don't need to volunteer your time in order to make up for the fact that they're not giving you enough time. Similarly, non-teaching periods are non-SWIFT weeks, and therefore you should not be doing coordinator tasks if you're a coordinator. Those are, of course, covered under the SWIFT. You should only be doing the amount of time that is identified on the SWIFT, and non-teaching weeks would not be included in that. So that would be struck work. And lastly, of course, if you're partial load and you're not being paid, do no work for the college. You deserve to be paid for the work that you do, period. The last thing I want to mention around non-teaching activities, if you have academic integrity issues, some concerns there, instead of filing through sort of the often very, very extensive and labor-intensive paperwork that's required by the colleges, instead of doing that, just send a brief overview to your supervisor, maybe an email including, let's say, the student work, the assignment, a very brief 2-sentence explanation of your concerns around academic integrity, what causes you concern or what you think is the nature of the academic integrity concern, and maybe some links to outside sources that may be relevant for determining academic integrity. Once again, this is work that you are not being given significant amounts of time in order to do under your SWIF, and therefore it's work that we should not be volunteering our time in order to take the workload away from the department by assuming it ourselves as unpaid volunteer work. That's not appropriate. Okay, so if you have any questions, please contact your union local executive. And again, as well, keep your eyes open for an upcoming town hall province-wide with the CADA bargaining team and your colleagues from the 24 Ontario colleges. You can consult facultystrong.ca for documents associated with Work to Rule, including the complete list of job actions and struck work under Phase 3. But it also includes some documents that you could give to your supervisor and your students, which is say like sample emails, things that you can share with your students to explain what's going on. What should you tell your supervisor, for example, if you're trying to find a way of saying that you're not going to be doing some particular work during a non-teaching period? You'll find some sample language there. That's it. Thank you very much. Stand together and stand strong. We are trying to raise the pressure. We're trying to bring a resolution to bargaining without further escalation. That will require raising the pressure on management and getting them to agree either to return to the bargaining table or to turn to voluntary binding interest arbitration. We are doing very, very well so far, and hopefully we're going to be able to take care of this together. Okay, good luck.